There you go. Thanks. So, morning, everybody. So there is the swag bag. The only request I have of you is that if you win it, when you reach in and go, nah, I don't want all this branded crap, give me the Fire Stick, throw the stuff away somewhere away from the show. Don't just leave it lying around as though it doesn't matter. So hopefully somebody will win it and will enjoy it, and we'll see how we go. So yeah, Simon Jones, I'm the VP of Marketing over at Conviva. Hopefully some of you have heard of Conviva. Anybody? Yay! All right. Well, you work there. It doesn't count. So what we want to talk to you about this morning is some of the results of some surveys we've done recently that are telling us how things are changing in the world of OTT. And I know what you're thinking, what kind of a joker comes up with a title, Keeping Up with the Joneses, when his last name is a Jones? This guy. So let's talk a little bit. Some of you probably heard this expression from Shakespeare, except they change it, right? They always say missed expectations are the root of all heartbreak, heartache, that sort of thing. You ever heard that? Oft expectation fails, and most oft there where most it promises. I have an English accent, I get to quote Shakespeare. But what we're seeing in today's world of OTT is that the expectations consumers have of the experience they're going to have has grown at an exponential rate. To your question a couple of minutes ago, what we're seeing now is that people who are really engaging with video, so watching premium shows, watching movies, frankly watching the really high quality branded content that's coming out, they are seeking a lean back experience. They're looking for us to deliver to them an experience which feels just like television. And so what's going to happen is that as soon as you break the spell, they give up and go away. And like we all recognize this, right? This was a stat that we've been tracking for the last 3 years. So if for every 1% of the time you spend watching a video that is buffering, so there's awful little turny circles as it waits and pauses right in the middle of a dramatic scene, you lose 14 minutes of engagement across long-form video. Last year it was 11 minutes, the year before was 8 minutes. Here's what the audience is telling us: they're impatient. They're not willing to make the allowances that they used to make by going, it's just the internet. It's free. Who cares? It's just the internet. It's just YouTube. Of course, it's not free anymore, right? Hands up everybody who's signed up for HBO Now. God bless you. Isn't it marvelous? Love it. Okay, these guys are charging $15 a month. They believe they can get 10 million subscribers without cannibalizing their underlying business. That's a $1.8 billion a year business. That's not just the internet, right? At that point, as a consumer, we expect it's going to work just like the television. I don't know about anybody else. That's actually been my experience. I love watching my Game of Thrones on my iPhone 6, which is kind of sad. Who gave me the whoop? Excellent work. There you go, man in the back. Excellent. So, the question is, so if they tell us, hey, if it's not good quality, I'm leaving, what's the impact, right? Because for some people, we think just in terms of, lost a view. Lost a view. What the heck? It's all good. It's just one view. I got a bajillion views. But what really happens? And what really happens is as soon as that customer says, you know what, this is awful, I'm leaving, half of them, give or take, 24.6 plus 24.8, anybody who wants to do the math, go for it. Those people are very unlikely to want to come back to that same service. Now, that doesn't sound so bad, right? If you're, I don't know, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, of course they're going to come back. They've got to get the latest Atlanta Braves news. I'm an Atlanta Braves fan, I'm sorry. But if you're a subscription video company and they're not coming back, guess what they ain't doing next month? They're not paying again. And even worse than that, if you are, let's say, Netflix just spent $90 million to make Marco Polo, reportedly, who knows? Every time someone drops off of one episode because it wasn't good, they're not coming back for the rest. That core asset just lost long-term value. So it really actually matters, right? And the terrifying thing is how quickly it happens. So when watching long-form video, 75% of customers give up in 4 minutes or less if they see what they consider to be a low quality of experience, by which we mean it's a kind of a fuzzy picture and or it keeps buffering, it keeps stopping and glurking. I haven't released the next survey, which is due out in a couple of weeks, but I will give you a sneak preview and tell you whether it's long form or short form. 33% of the consumers that we surveyed said they give up in less than 30 seconds. If it doesn't load quickly, if it looks terrible, it keeps pausing while you load up more stuff in that buffering mode, they're gone. And again, long term for the OTT television environment, that's going to be meaningful. Okay, that was all kind of grumpy. How about happy? What happens when it's good? Right? What happens when it's good? So we did a little check-in on one country, 1 month. It's just a little taster. We found that when the quality is good and those awful little buffering circles go away, people stick around for 66% longer. Now, you might say to me, now, what the hell do you know? What do you people know? So we actually did a little bit of backtracking. We did a little bit of math just to put into context how we know what we know. In the last month I was able to dig up the data for, we tracked 40% more streams than Netflix did. So we have a fairly decent view of what customers are doing. I hope that continues to go up. We don't really measure by views, but that just gives you a sense of the sort of the magnitude of what we're talking about. So clearly then, consumers are kind of impatient. They will reward great quality. Here we go, 66%, but they're gone with poor quality. So what do we need if we're going to be able to work out where we are, what we're doing, and how we deliver a great service that keeps people around? And it's this awful word. I hate this word, but it's so perfect for it, dimensionality. I actually like the picture better than the word, honestly. Dimensionality. Once again, when we start thinking about delivering video to different devices, different platforms, different geographies, different networks, all of a sudden, everybody doesn't look the same. 3-4 years ago, pretty much you aced a Flash player and you were good to go, right? Well, now you're not, right? Because we got Flash, we got the phones, we got the Xboxes, the PlayStations, you name it. Probably got 12 different devices in this room. Each time each individual comes in, they expect it to look like television. But their unique set of circumstances are going to be very different to everybody else's. We got loads of mathematicians running around inside Conviva. At some point, I'll make them tell me how many different combinations we're really dealing with. When you mention the different devices across the different networks and different geos with the different CDNs at different times of day, you can see pretty quickly everybody's pretty darn close to unique. And what we know is that context really matters in terms of understanding whether you're delivering a great experience, right? So what is good? This is a question we get asked all the time, right? Our customers will say, hey, we're doing so much better than last month. We feel like the picture's better, it's not pausing, but is that good? And the only way you can tell good is with context, right? If I can run a 12-second 100 meters, I can't run a 12 minutes. But if I could, how would I know if that was any good? The only way I'd know if that was any good would be to compare to somebody else, right? And the challenge here is that each one of the individual sets of circumstances has its own set of context, right? So when we take a look at, for instance, devices, we can see that on the Android phone, just for example, people are used to it taking a bunch of time to start up, right? Where by contrast, on the Xbox, they're expecting it to start up in, 3 seconds, right, versus 22. They expect that the interruption rate will be minuscule relative to almost anything else. But they're okay with a relatively low resolution, where on PlayStation, there's an expectation of a really high resolution, over 3 megs. That's a pretty goodly resolution. So we have to get this context right, because good is in the eye of the beholder. Right? The consumer is comparing and contrasting, and that's how they know. They know it's good because it's compared to everything else they just looked at. Oh, wrong way. But then the ecosystem matters as well, right? We don't just deliver video the same way we deliver web pages, and frankly, these days, web pages are often delivered across content delivery networks. And what we could see here is that the different CDNs, and I didn't put their names on there quite deliberately. If you really want to know who they are, I'll tell you if you buy me a beer. But I didn't want to name anybody. But you can see that the resolution delivered changes significantly between the different CDNs. And here I've layered USA versus UK. Right? So you can see that CDN 4 is killing it in the USA, but they're way behind CDN 3 in the UK. Why? I'm not sure I even want to guess as to why, but I do know that. So when I'm trying to deliver a high-quality service that crosses over borders, I may need to have agreements with multiple CDNs. I may need to set it up so that we're using the right ones for the right people. Because I want every single consumer to go, that was a great experience, I'm sticking around and I'm coming back for more. Once again, I want to remind you, $1.8 billion business for HBO now. That's going to be for lots of other people. Sir?
Sorry, my jet lag eyes, I can't quite see what the number is that's indicated by this bar.
This is the average picture, bit rate, if you will. Yeah, I just like to say picture resolution because I'm in marketing, so I don't like to say bit rate. It's my job. All right, last one, because I said dimensionality, right? So all I did there was take the CDN and layer it on a couple of countries. Well, that's 2 dimensions. That's easy. How about if I try and do the average picture resolution or bit rate for short form VOD at a benchmark rate compared between the US and UK? So now I'm getting into some dimensions, right? I'm saying, well, short form is different to long form is different to live, right? I'm looking for the best that can be done, and I'm looking across a couple of countries. All of a sudden, those bars which seemed relatively close to each other look really different. Right now, CDN4 is looking really good in the USA, right? They're beating what Netflix would anticipate on their ISP speed index. But they're not looking so awesome in the UK. So maybe now my deal is I'm going to use CDN4 maybe more for the long form when I'm in the UK and less for the short form. All I'm saying to you here is look at the dimensionality. It's a complicated set of expectations. We have this little picture in our survey. And by the way, if you want to stop by our booth, we can either get you a physical or an electronic version of these surveys. You can see, and again, this is just kind of a sprinkling of the medium. This time I went with interruption rates, buffering, if you will. And now I'm looking at devices and countries, right? So we could say, if you're in Denmark, which is the orange one, and you're watching on Silverlight, you expect it to buffer just 0.25% of the time. So anything beyond that, and that's going to make your viewer really grumpy. Where by contrast, if I look down at Flash in Australia, they're pretty good with 1.79. Okay, now the numbers are what the numbers are. 7x. So if you can get down to 1.5%, 1%, you're better than everybody else. And this is the other side of the coin, right? We're talking about economics here. As OTT becomes real, you don't only have to deliver the single best thing that is humanly possible. You have to deliver a thing which is good to better, but not necessarily worlds above. Right? So if you're an operator, a network operator, and you're making a choice as to whether to deliver the stuff at a 1.5 meg rate or a 2.5 meg rate, the difference is very material, right? From both a CapEx and an OpEx perspective, you're talking about a significant difference in backhaul and routers and all of the things which I'm delighted to say I don't really understand. But you're talking about significant differences. So tuning is not just as good as it can be, it's good in context. And just to give you one more sort of feel for what the difference is when we talk about a high-quality experience versus a less high-quality experience, we did a little study on a number of streams that went through. I believe this was in February. And you'll see that the shorter ones are quality impact. Okay, so we define quality impacted differently, right? It depends on the consumer, but basically it's a picture lower than would be expected, and a buffering rate that's higher than would be expected. The ones in green are for live events. And we can see that folks who don't have that experience stick around nearly half again as long. And then you look at the video on demand, it's about the same, from 48% to 54%. Now, what you do with that engagement is entirely up to you, right? Mark mentioned the different models a few minutes ago. Remember the AVOD, the SVOD, the TVOD, and the Hulu VOD, because they're unique, right? Whether you can sell more ads, I don't know, right? This is an opportunity to increase your inventory of experience. And by the way, I'll tell you anecdotally, on occasion, we'll see folks who tune this beautifully. They're at benchmark rates. They're delivering the picture that their customers expect with the buffering rates that their customers expect. And engagement doesn't really change. Anyone want to hazard a guess as to why?
We're using Conviva.
Oh, behave. No, because in the final analysis, you can deliver the stuff as beautiful as you like, but if the content isn't right, people won't stick around. But you don't know whether the content is right as long as the delivery is inconsistent and could potentially be the reason why people aren't sticking around. So every now and then we'll find one, the engagement doesn't really shift that much. That's the best gift you can get, because that tells you that the 90 million bucks you just spent building Marco Polo or whatever it is that you've done from a content perspective, which is where the real money is, that you've got a problem there. All right, so let me talk just for a second about how folks are dealing with this. Okay, so I've identified an issue, we've identified risks, we've identified rewards, we've identified complexity. You've got to solve for this, right? It's no good just pointing out a problem and chuckling my way back to sit down next to Mark here. We have seen our customers have terrific success with what we call an iterative publishing process. Most people are already doing this. They don't know they're doing this because we just put a name on it. But this is what people are doing. And the first step is to monitor. Okay, anybody involved in running an OTT service right now in the room? Really, nobody? Jeepers. Yeah, one guy, two guys. All right, so you monitor it, right? You track it. You look to see how you're doing. One of the things that we focus on is trying to get all of that data into one place so you can get at it quickly, but you can also go back to it over time and slice and dice and work out where your opportunities and threats are. And I do think it's important to put everything in one place. And you really want to try and get as objective a picture as you can, right? So no disrespect intended to anyone, but if the CDN is giving you all of your data, it's difficult for them to tell you how they're doing versus somebody else because that second CDN's doing their data and you've got to reconcile, right? So you bring that all together, you have a sense of how you're doing. You say, great, I'm doing better than last month. Still don't know if that's good. So that's where our customers now are digging up the benchmarking reports that we're helping them with, where you're really looking to say, where do I fit in? Right? Look on a percentile basis. Where do I slot? Because I might want to be 100th percentile. I might want to be the best. I might want to have the best picture. If you're in the SVOD business, it's quite possible, right? You want to have this amazing experience that people keep coming back for. If you're in the AVOD business, I don't know. Right? You're making your money from people being there and watching the ads. I'm not sure that you necessarily need to be 100th percentile. I think 60th sounds pretty good. Right? I'm good enough that I'm better than most of the stuff other people are seeing, but I'm not overpaying to deliver this content because fundamentally I want them to consume the ad and the content's sort of present. Right? So getting those benchmarks, but also looking around the industry. Right? So I talked a moment ago about, for the service providers, the value of not over-delivering. So you kind of got to get a feel across the industry, what's standard? Right? Because it's not just sort of vague numbers. Now you get into specifics. When you're encoding your content, you have a lot of granularity that you can access. And so you want to get it right so that you're giving people what they want without over-delivering. Finally, you run into an optimization phase. It's interesting you used the word optimize as well, Mark. I mean, I think this is the key where you say, all right, I know where I am, I know what's possible, I've decided where I want to get to, so I'm going to put the technology in place that makes sure that each one of those practically unique viewers is getting the right combination, right? I'm giving them the right picture resolution that's going to go through, and it's not going to glitch and burp and stop. It's going to make them happy, it's going to keep them around, and it's going to bring them back in. And the reason we call it iterative is then you've got to go back to monitor, because guess what, everybody? Everything changes. Everything changes every day. I don't think you can actually update everything every day. That may be overdoing it. But we've all got a phone in our pocket or on the table or in a bag. Actually, that's a question. Does anybody not have a smartphone on them? Yeah. All right, so we've all got a phone in our pocket. Think about if we took all of the phones in this room and counted how many times in a year there was going to be a change in the operating system, or we would change our phones. Right? Those things change every day. And I'll tell you, how many people have Androids? Yeah, okay. Right, so when it jumps from version to version, right, it doesn't all happen at the same time, right? Sometimes it's Verizon, and then T-Mobile catch up, and maybe AT&T come in. They also fork them. So things change all the time. Bandwidth availability changes all the time. My T-Mobile phone was god-awful in my back garden until like 4 months ago, and now it's awesome. Right, so things change. So we have to come back around, monitor some more, benchmark some more, optimize again to the set of circumstances in which we're currently operating. And that's how people are solving for this. Once you get the tech in place, and more importantly, the processes in place, it's really not that hard. And we know that the rewards are pretty significant. So let's summarize what we've talked about here, and I hope this has been useful, and we'll have a couple questions. Here's what we know. Audiences do care about the experience. They care a lot, and I'll sneak you one last stat. When we asked consumers for the next survey, which is coming out in a couple of weeks, what was the most important element in choosing a video-on-demand service? Because I'm in the business of helping customers with experience optimization, I was hoping experience would come second, because I figured content library, right? Who doesn't? It came first. They care about the experience. Once they've bought and they're choosing whether to buy the next one, then they care about content library, because now they're in, and now they're deciding whether there's more for them to go. First up was experience. Secondly, experience is situationally dependent, right? The phone you have, the network you're on, the time of day, the place you're in, all of those things will have an impact. Change is constant. We're constantly working our way through all of these different things, but the risks and the rewards are both great and basically equal. If we get it right, people stick around, and you know what? They believe the magic. They believe that it's television, and at that point, they are delighted to pay you money for it. You break the spell, and they're gone in a flash. All right, that's what I've got. Anybody have any questions, thoughts, queries, comments? Please, no complaints. Sir.
Simon, you've got tremendous access to data at your fingertips, and what can you tell us about what's changing as these subscriptions happen? What's changing in terms of the engagement levels of clients with the content? I mean, what do you see that's changing as a result?
Okay, so the question was, what do we see that is changing in terms of engagement in light of these models, right? So I think what we're seeing is we see a significant move away from consumers viewing video delivered over the internet as video delivered over the internet. We see constant migration from short little snippets on small little telephones to large pieces of premium content on much bigger screens. In fact, a number of folks are now talking about the process of upscreening. I'm hoping to coin this phrase, so if you could all use that a lot this week, that'd be great. But I talked to a group the other day who said, look, we're not building a multi-billion-dollar business on people watching on the cell phone. But if they have a terrible experience on the cell phone, they're not moving to the big screen. And the big screen is where I'm actually building a multi-billion-dollar business. And all the data that we see are telling us that the move is, for really high-end premium content, is towards the bigger and bigger screens. I think that currently the consoles are leading the way, which doesn't surprise me wildly. The smart TV manufacturers are getting closer, and I think they'll be there in the next year or so, but it's a lot easier to run on an Xbox One than on an LG for personal experience. But that's the move. There was a piece the other day in, I want to say it was Variety, which now will be wrong, but it said, in a year or two, we won't be talking about OTT TV, we'll just be talking about TV. And that's the shift. If people want to believe, they want to watch, and they're sitting down and watching that big screen up on the wall. Any more for any more? All right, then. I'm just going to see how long we can leave it, see if it gets really, really uncomfortable. All right, well, thanks very much. I really appreciate your time. Hopefully one of you wins a prize.